line is Irma. The middle of this line here, the red line, that is Maria, right over the Turks and Caicos, right over the DR, right through Punta Cana, right through Dominican Republic here, and also into Puerto Rico, where we will see big swells on the east side of the storm, right over St. Croix with a damaging hit there. And then you think about the USVI and the BVI, and their houses are already torn up. It doesn't take 100-mile-per-hour wind to blow things around, and they may get 120. Here is Jose finally just grabbing a bunch of dry air and killing itself. That's the good news. A lot of still some swells here along the East Coast, and for New York all the way up to about Boston. We will see tropical storm warnings that were just posted from this, but really, Jose is not much to worry about, except if you stay out of the water, you're in shape. But Maria is the one we have to watch for the U.S. East Coast, and certainly for all of the islands there in the Northeast Atlantic.
And coming fast. I mean, that had going over Puerto Rico Wednesday. I mean, this thing is coming.
It is. And the fact that it's moving quickly and not stalled over any water is that it gets from water quickly. And so that is more fuel to the fire. When it sits and spins in one spot like this is, like Jose, you kind of lose the water, you lose the hot, you lose the heat, you lose the humidity. So the storm kills itself. When it keeps moving, it keeps getting stronger and stronger.
All right, we got to stay close to this.
Also staggering is that we have 3 tropical systems, named tropical systems across the Atlantic right now. We're still looking towards Tropical Storm Lee, which we do believe will dissipate before reaching any kind of landfall, focusing closely on but there's also Jose along the east coast of the United States. It's going to bring strong rip tides and rip currents to the coastal areas through the weekend and into early next week, and also the potential for tropical storm force gusts for the Cape Cod region. Now we're just passing peak season for at least the Atlantic hurricane season, and it's no wonder we have 3 storms right now. The ocean waters are very warm. This is Hurricane Jose, 130-kilometer-per-hour sustained winds. There's a lot of shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere, kind of taking off the coldest and tallest cloud tops, the coldest and tallest thunderstorms. So it's actually helping kind of spread the storm out and also suppress its strengthening process. So we don't believe that the storm will make any kind of direct landfall across the United States. But again, nonetheless, we do have the potential for strong gusty winds, at least for the southeastern coastline of New England, and large waves as well that will impact that area.
All eyes are on Hurricane Maria. It is strengthening and could be a Category 4 hurricane by the middle of the week. And it's going to head just south of where Irma pushed through. So there's Barbados up here. So it's just to the south of that, right over Puerto Rico Wednesday and Thursday. And most computer models do turn this to the north before it gets close to Florida. But until it makes that turn, we're going to watch it for you. And it's
that new hurricane bearing down on the storm-ravaged Caribbean as residents still reeling from the vicious damage from storms scramble for food, clean water, and power. Can they handle another major hurricane? ABC's David Wright reports from hard-hit St. Martin.
Tonight, the Caribbean is bracing for its second major hurricane in 2 weeks. For some islands, an unprecedented blow.
I mean, wow, look at this.
On St. Martin, we saw firsthand the devastation that Irma caused.
These are sizable yachts, and yet to the storm, they might as well have been tinker toys. On this dock alone, millions of dollars in damage.
So this is a $10 million boat?
Yeah.
And the insurance won't cover it?
No cover this.
Many on the island have no power, no clean water, and no gas for the generators. Relief supplies are getting in.
Strong man.
But the demand is huge. The idea of facing another hurricane with no roof overhead, that's not Jeffrey Sockrin is an American we met who lives on St. Martin. We caught up with him by phone again today.
Any type of rain, any type of wind that we have as a result of Maria will devastate those that are already devastated further.
The exodus that began on these islands after Irma has now kicked into overdrive. But for many, it's too late. On St. Croix, Ashley Buzianis and her family are getting out.
Just in that hour after we booked our flight, the remainder of the flights before Wednesday sold out. So there's literally nothing left as of last night.
The thousands who can't flee.
But we're going to make it through, man. We're strong people. So one day we must rise again.
This tropical paradise is becoming a living hell. David Wright, ABC News, St. Martin.
We're going to start things off today with hurricane threats increasing in the Caribbean and all the way up the East Coast.
Yeah, and right now millions of people are under tropical storm watch from Delaware to Massachusetts as Hurricane Jose closes in. This is a very rare thing for many parts of the Northeast. And Hurricane Maria is making its way towards the Leeward Islands, which includes Barbuda and St. Martin, both hit very hard by Irma.
There have been a number of projections as to where Maria will go next, but most forecasts have the system passing over Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. The hurricane is also expected to gain strength.
Now, in addition to Jose and Maria, Tropical Storm Lee is churning in the Atlantic. Busy times now, but Maria is causing the most concern.
This morning, the Caribbean bracing for a new hit. Hurricane Maria gathering strength overnight, and now watches and warnings posted for the same islands that got devastated by Hurricane Irma.
Any type of rain, any type of wind that we have as a result of Maria will devastate those that are already devastated further.
Islands like Barbuda and St. Martin, its residents still scrambling for food, clean water, and power. And now another hurricane on the doorstep with no roof overhead.
But we're going to make it through, man. We're strong people. So one day we must rise again.
People in Florida also closely watching Maria's path. The Keys now fully open more than a week after Irma. The tens of thousands who fled the storm's wrath finally making it home to see what's left.
It's heartbreaking. Now I'm going to have to think about rebuilding.
We are going to closely watch this double threat in the Atlantic. Two big storms developing right now. Hurricane Jose could bring flooding and rain to the East Coast.
And Hurricane Maria is threatening to strike the hard-hit Caribbean. It's forecast to become a Category 4 storm and could take aim at the U.S. The Caribbean is already, feeling the effects. This morning, our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, has the latest on its path. Good morning, Ginger.
Robin, can you believe it? Here I am talking about two hurricanes again. And yes, I think that Jose is the first we want to focus in on just because it's already happening. The images coming in from North Carolina, you can see some of the rough surf that's been impacting some of the Carolina coast there. That is going to move up the East Coast. And tomorrow especially, we've got Jose here some 280 plus miles away from the coast, but you could see 12-foot waves anywhere from Virginia and Delaware up through New Jersey, even Brooklyn, 12-foot waves. Can you imagine the impact and the beach erosion possible there? Tropical storm watches for up to 40, even close to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as this thing stays just in our enough offshore. And then we've got Hurricane Maria, and this one really will intensify in the next couple of days, 48 hours really. We'll be talking about it the U.S. Virgin Islands, eventually Puerto Rico, but it's got to make its way through the Lesser Antilles first as it makes those intensifications, and then eventually the question is, does it hit Florida? Everybody wants to know this, and most of the modeling taking it away from Florida. But we're going to be tracking that just as we track Puerto Rico's impact, and that's where we find our Rob Marciano this morning. Rob, another big one headed so close, up to 15, even 20 inches of rain.
It is hard to believe, isn't it, Ginger? Our second major hurricane potentially hitting the same areas in less than 2 weeks. Here in Puerto Rico, they're already shutting down government offices and closing schools today. And for our friends in St. Martin and St. Thomas, I mean, they're still in for survival mode there. Food, water, shelter, they need it. They're passing out blue tarps just to give them something. And there's all that debris over there that could be flying around. So they're begging residents to try to pin that down with heavy rocks, whatever they can. San Juan's been kind of a hub for relief and recovery efforts. That's going to come to a halt as we wait for Maria. We did okay here in Irma, a lot of power out, fared okay, not a direct hit, but now we're looking at the potential for a Category 4 direct hit, and as we know from very recent experience, Ginger, that's not fun for anyone.
Rob, we feel so much for those islands, and of course, just to give people perspective, so active this season, we've actually seen the U.S. Virgin Islands, if they see it as a major hurricane, they've never had two major hurricanes hit this close to home in any season. So this is really starting to break records.
Boy, it sure is. Okay, Ginger, thanks very much.
We've been doing this since Friday after the storm. It's something like 10 days. We've been running 2, 3, 4 trips, 5 trips some days, back and forth to St. John and St. Thomas. It's stressing our crew, it's stressing our boats, but we don't see that there's anywhere near sufficient help from any government agencies or from the Navy or the disaster relief services. They just don't seem to be over there in the force necessary to take care of these people. We have a storm coming ourselves. We're trying to get our boats out of the water. We're trying to get them tied up, but we At least one more run in the morning to St. Thomas and St. John, because there are people lined up that need to get off the island. People with babies, mothers are coming with infants, with newborns, you know, leaving the husbands on the island. There are elderly people, there are people that are sick or injured that need to get off, and we're just doing our best to take these people.
Honestly, I feel like, I don't know, this is the only home I've ever known, and I love St. John, and it kind of just feels like one thing after the other, like someone just dropping bombs on what you love. But I know that this place is full of very strong people, and we have a very good support team back home of people that love us and have family here, and I feel like the rebuild is a while, but I feel like we have a good team. People are going to do it. People are going to take care of each other. That's kind of what I've learned living here. I love you. I'll be back soon.
I'm seeing interactive.
And now we are facing the threats from Tropical Storm Maria. These are the latest tropical storm watches. You can see the islands and also the hurricane watches that are in effect across the northern Caribbean islands, St. Martin, Antigua, Barbuda, into St. Kitts in the Nevis region. This is the latest from the National